Hi, everyone. Happy Pride. It is time for another comics chat. And I may or may not have used this month's topic of LGBTQIA representation in mainstream comics as an excuse to continue talking about the X-Men. Um, but just to give y'all a little break before I wax so happy about seeing other bisexuals in comics, I'm going to let Kara go first with her first comic.
All right, my first comic here is Wonder Woman. And this is called Wonder Woman, the True Amazon. And this is actually a standalone origin story for Wonder Woman. It actually begins with the history of the Amazons and their battle against Heracles and Zeus, and how Hera helps them escape to Themyscira, which is a secret island where the men can't find them. And Hippolyta is really lonely. So despite, being surrounded by all this beauty and culture and fellow women on her island, so she creates her daughter out of clay. And that daughter, of course, is Diana. And she is growing up on Themyscira as the only child there, and also the princess of Themyscira. So she's kind of like, she's spoiled, entitled, not really the Wonder Woman as we know her. So I think that's one of the reasons this is really an interesting comic here, is that we get to see kind of like a darker side of Diana. So in this, even though she is really kind of like, she's basically a spoiled brat, but everyone else is really enamored with her despite this. She's chosen her, she's proven herself as a warrior. She's gone out to different unknown areas of the island to fight these beasts and reclaim these magical items. And so everybody on the island loves her except for Alethea, who is a stable girl, and Diana just can't stand this, that somebody does not like her. So it's a little bit about how they come to understand each other, and Alethea tells her the only thing she cares about is a person's honesty. So Diana sets out to prove herself. Now there's it's called a Commemoration of Warriors, which is a contest in which all of the women are, the warriors are in disguise. So they're all wearing these masks. And it's not, you can see right here that they're battling these beasts, but that was not the intent of the contest. The intent of the contest is actually a race. But Diana can see that she's losing, and she takes out this horn to unleash all these beasts that she's captured, so that she can get ahead and to win the race. And actually, this person you see right here, you might think that this is Wonder Woman, but it is not. We learn, I'm just gonna have to give spoilers for this because I can't talk about it otherwise. We learn that this is Alethea. And Diana's about to, get to the finish line, and then she turns back and she sees all of her sisters being, fighting off these beasts, and many of them are fallen and bleeding. So then she turns back to help fight, and Alethea fights beside her, but she ends up sacrificing herself to save Diana. So it's a real moment of tragedy, but like also a real turning point in her life. And her mother is forced to exile her in order to atone for what she's done. And as she leaves, she takes up Alethea's mantle and vows then that she's only going to use her gifts for altruism. So the romance in this is very subtle, but it's also very sweet. And definitely one that if you are a fan of Wonder Woman, you should read.
I was going to say, nice costume origin story too. Also, Zeus is just the worst.
Yes.
in everything.
Yes.
All right. And then let's go ahead and share mine. We got, first I'm going to talk about XFactor, which is historically in the X-Men line, XFactor is the detective stories for the most part. There's a really good run in the early 2000s called XFactor Investigations, and it's come back now. Due to the nature of how mutants can resurrect themselves, in the event that one of them dies through strange circumstances, or in this one, the catalyst is that Northstar just senses his twin sister Aurora dies, but he can't prove it. And so they're like, look, we can't resurrect her until we have proof of death, because then there'll be two of them. So they create XFactor investigations. To try to find this out. So you get Northstar, who is married to a human, and then you also get Prodigy, who is dating Speed, and you have Daken, Wolverine's long lost son. So Daken and Prodigy have arguments that my wife pointed out is exactly how my best friend and I talk. But what's good about this is that this is well after Northstar married his husband, and so it's become so normalized. So at one point, the way that Aurora, after she gets resurrected, kind of eases back in is you catch her just watching movies with her brother-in-law. So it's gotten to the point where like mutants have always been the analogy for being marginalized, and I'm going to talk about this with my second one more because it's a character that existed almost directly to create that analogy. But now, like, because it's the notion of the mutant part of them is being more accepted, so everything else follows. So you have stories about like the sexuality of it is just anything goes. At one point, it's become clear that Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Emma Frost are in a polycule even. So this new mutant society that they're creating is incredibly accepting. It's just like, yeah, the world's changing, guys, catch up. But the panel that I put here is just a really, really brilliant piece of world building, where it's one of or two of the five X-Men, Hope Summers, and I cannot remember the other guy, the one that she's talking to, talking about how every time they resurrect a flyer, the first thing that happens is they take to flight. It's just predictable every single time. And to the point where it's now a cultural phenomenon on their new mutant island. It's just they're there to create their own nation and their own culture, and why wouldn't they be so accepting of everyone else and who they are originally? So I just love it. The story of it is one of the better ones because since it's murder investigations, you're not getting big teams and big villains. It's really small, grounded stories. So you have these really nice, more subtle story beats happening. The love stories happen more gradual. The climaxes and twists have actually even a bigger effect because of the subtlety. I'm really, really digging this, and I'm upset that it might be getting canceled after its next issue, because one of the main characters is being migrated to another run by the same writer. I hope they just reboot it and hand it off to another writer, because this is a really nice slice of X-Men. I'm a big old fan.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. The art is just phenomenal.
They're knocking it out of the park with this whole thing. And anytime, especially the main X-Men run, and anytime you see a cover by Pepe Larraz, it's just so good and so pretty and colorful.
Yes. My next one is Jughead. I just loved this comic so much. So this is Jughead's own run. In the Archie comics, he's like Archie's sidekick, but I really feel that Archie is made to be a sidekick and not Jughead. So basically, the whole idea behind Jughead here is that he's kind of a delinquent, but he never breaks a rule, and he also opposes violence. So he's only a delinquent so far as the teachers are concerned, really. And we begin here, he doesn't really want to get involved in anything. Like Betty is trying to save like a forest reserve that they grew up in, and he's like, "No, that's just useless." But the school administration gets changed over, and then the lunch menu gets changed, and Jughead's just like, "What? This cannot stand."
Did they take away his cheeseburgers?
Yeah, yeah. So then he starts getting involved, and he eventually figures out that the um, new principal and teachers are secretly training them to be secret agents. So it's just like out there, and of course his friends at first don't believe him, but then they come back around to it. One of the things that is really great about the Jughead comics is just, you can just expect weirdness. And then next we have they're in PE, and basically the PE teacher is saying whoever finishes last gets detention. And up to this point, Jughead has been able to avoid that, but he's not able to. And now he's in detention, and he's dozing off, and he slips into a dream. And this happens, I think, about 5 times throughout the comic. And what I love about this is that the storylines of the dreams align with the overall storyline. So it's just really, really great. And here we have the time police, and this is Archie's descendant from the future, who tells Jughead that he has to come and help them save the future because, and you see she's carrying this like crown, which is like a time something crown, and so he's like the one responsible for all of this. And she shows up in another dream that he has. So it's just this wonderful mix of everything, everything weird. In reference to Pride Month, Jughead is asexual, so he's not interested in boys or girls or romance or anything like that. And they do have a short conversation here with Kevin. I don't have it on this page, but it's
Aces are welcome.
yes. It's referenced, but the majority of the story is just like on the weirdness of Jughead, which is wonderful.
Also, time police are hot right now.
Yes, exactly.
Everyone watch Loki.
Exactly.
I'm not spoiling anything. But yeah, every time I always had the wrong idea for anything Riverdale related, anything Archie, and when you finally read them, they're just the weirdest stinking comics. They do such comic book things that we excuse in Marvel because it's superheroes in weird costumes, but because it's teenagers in regular clothes, we're just like, oh, that's weird. But
yeah, and what's great about the Jughead comics too is that historically he frequently teams up with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So when you think about Archie, you think like regular school stuff, but then it just like offshoots into magic. And if you've read The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Betty and Veronica are the ones who accidentally summon Madame Satan in that comic, and they just get kind of like a throwaway panel, but it's like just like, I don't know, great how they connect it all.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
All right, so I got one more X-Men comic. This is not in the Krakoa line. This is an older one. So it is from All New X-Men, Volume 7, and this is the panel where Jean Grey essentially outs Iceman. So in typical comic fashion, timelines got reset. Jean Grey got resurrected after she destroyed an entire star system as the Phoenix. She came back somehow because Marvel. And she's just idly reading her new young version of Iceman's mind and tells him like, nah, it's all over your thoughts. You're absolutely gay. And then a few panels down, he kind of mentions that like, how could I be and not my future self who I've met? And it's due to the timeline during which he was raised. you had to put something away because being a mutant and gay at the same time, when it's not socially acceptable to be easier, perhaps you pick the one that's easier. And in Iceman's case, it'd be the powers that he has. But Iceman historically was the like one of the major analogies, because at least early on, he would try to pass with his powers, to not use them and to try to pass as normal, to try to pass as human. And that's one of the conflicts over decades with the X-Men is, I mean, it's why Beast does the experiment on himself that goes awry and makes him big and blue and hairy, because he wants to cure himself of what is seen by the society at large as a disease. And so it was something that for the longest time, everyone identified an Iceman as subtext, and now they could just make it straight up text. And if you're reading the current, the reason I didn't talk about it in the current run is because my last month comic was Marauders, which has Iceman in it, where he's dating Christian Frost, but I didn't want to repeat the same comic over a month. But the X-Men comics are so good right now, and it's reinvigorated my reading so much. I just want to keep talking about it. So this is a fun series. This is a Bendis, and I'm a big fan of it because this current run, they're not afraid to pull in all the other Marvel universe. Sometimes the X-Men can be insular because there are so many. You just don't see Captain America. You just don't see Iron Man. Mm-hmm. But any of the comics that have been released since the MCU, you start to they're like, oh, we got to have these other guys show up to remind you there are these movies to go see. So you start seeing Cap a lot more often. You start seeing Doctor Strange shows up a bit because you have so many mutants that use magic. He inevitably gets tangled in. So that makes me happy too.
Can work himself into anything.
Pretty much. Side note, there's a great what if where magic becomes the Sorcerer Supreme and not him, but I digress. As always, any excuse to talk about X-Men. but it was something I was talking to a coworker, and I had shown the list of all the representation in X-Men in particular, and it's massive. Guys, if you want something that's not safe for work, but you want to see, Google Deadpool hitting on Spider-Man. We can't talk about it in a family channel though, because it's Deadpool, and Deadpool gets put in our adult graphic novel section with good reason. But he's technically listed as the only pansexual. Everyone else is listed as bi or gay or straight. So go figure. So, but that pretty much wraps it up for us this month. I promise next month I will not talk about X-Men again, maybe.
Or will he?
Or will I?
We are going to be doing Eisner nominees next week, and I think X-Men is on that list.
Yep, Jonathan Hickman got nominated, so I promise I will not do it. There's a bunch on there I've been meaning to read. I promise I will read it before next month, and we will talk about it. Guys, as always, comment with what you're reading, what you like, especially if you've got representation in comics that you want to talk about. But as always, we will see you guys next month.
Bye.
Bye.